Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this modern FP&A. Welcome to this FP&A Trends webinar, where today we will be looking at frameworks, foundation, and enablers. My name is Hans Gobin. I'm your FP&A Trends ambassador and facilitator for today. And just so you know, we have well over 300 people joining us from 40 countries and beyond. Now, what are we going to be looking at today? So in terms of agenda, we will look at the 4 layers and the foundations of FP&A. We will also then look at unlocking growth with integrated FP&A, optimizing planning and performance, driver-based strategies, a case study at XPO Logistics, success strategies, AI adoption, conclusions and recommendation. And then we'll move on to our Q&A session. And then moving on very swiftly, it's a great time for me now to introduce our esteemed member of the panel. So panelists, if I can ask you to come on the camera, please, and go off mute. As I introduce them, the first speaker we have for today is Matt McManus, Services CFO at Kainos, based in Belfast. And today, Matt will be talking about unlocking growth with integrated FP&A. Matt, great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Hans. Pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Matt. Our second speaker today will be Dave Tranter, who is Head of Central Finance at XPO Logistics. Dave is based in Wigan in the United Kingdom, and today he will be talking through optimizing planning and performance, driver-based strategies within his own company, XPO Logistics. Dave, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Hans. Good to be here.
Brilliant. Last but not least, we've got Kelsey Vaughan, Product Marketing Manager at Workday, based in Dublin in Ireland, and today she will take us through success strategies for AI adoption in FP&A. Kelsey, great to have you on the panel today.
Thanks, Hans, and hello, everyone. Really excited to be here today.
Brilliant. Panelists, if you may switch your camera off as I do some housekeeping, that would be great. So moving on, a very quick introduction to our global sponsor today, who's Workday Adaptive Planning. We all know their tool, what a great tool they have. So thank you very much to Workday for making this possible. And then we move on to a little bit about FP&A Trends Group. You guys know we have 269 meetings, international FP&A board meetings so far since April 2016, and this is our 168th FP&A Trends webinar. The rest I leave you to consume in your own time. So moving on very quickly, housekeeping items. Just so you guys know, it is, of course, a 1-hour webinar. We want you to participate through 2 polling questions. So please vote when I launch our polling questions. We do have an interactive Q&A session. Please ask questions via the chat box. You can ask now if you've got any question related to our presentation today, or wait till the speakers have spoken one after the other, and then you can ask any sort of questions. We will try and answer some of them live today. The rest will be answered to you via email. The presentation is available for you to download in handouts. You will also receive a copy of the recording and the presentation after the meeting. Once I close the meeting, there is a feedback pop-up. So please give us some feedback. Tell us how we did, and also tell us what are the next sort of topics you would like us to bring to you in the next few sessions that we have planned. So let's move on. Very quickly, I'd like to set the scene and talk to you through a few stats and why we need to transform. So basically, if you look at this FP&A Trends Survey 2024, where does FP&A spend the majority of the time? You would see 65% is spent in information gathering, information generation, data validation, and data collection. Only 16% of the time is spent in driving action, which most of us would love to be the other way around. So why do we then need to transform? Of course, we want to do more action, driving action, insight generation. But guess what? 52% of organizations are still using spreadsheet for planning. We've just seen 45% of time is spent on collecting data and structuring data. Only 9% of organizations are fully driver based. Now, what can we do about it is, of course, transform. And our recent FP&A trends papers, through a lot of research and interviews with practitioners, we've come up with this model whereby, we have, first of all, the FP&A trends maturity model, where then it's overlaid with transformation framework, where we look at integrated FP&A, the different roles that are required within the organization so the organization can move forward. Then we looked at the FP&A foundation. So what are those? Driver-based planning, scenario management, and then finally, all the enablers that will help us through the transformation, right? So here you've got data, you've got AI, and another key thing, you've got FP&A business partnering as well. So most of these points will be covered by our esteemed panelists in a little bit. So I will not talk lengthily about it. Let me just quickly reintroduce to you the FP&A Trends Maturity model, which is a model that has been developed and refined since 2016 by all of the FP&A board around the world. It has got 3 different states, so developing state, intermediate state, and leading state. It's a good model to plan where your company actually is in all of these 6 different swim lanes. So the softer skills, leadership, skills, capabilities, business partnering, and then the harder skills. So where is your organization? You've got 5 different levels. If you see at the top there, where are you? Where do you want to go next? And then how can you get there? And you can go on the FP&A Trends website and actually map your organization as well. So let me now move on. That is the end of my little bit. I would like to very quickly reintroduce Matt, who will take us through unlocking growth potential within FP&A, within integrated FP&A. So Matt, over to you whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Hans. So good day, everyone. As Hans had said, I'm based in a very sunny Belfast, Northern Ireland, albeit I think this might be the only day of sunshine this year. A little bit about me then. I followed the relatively traditional route, accounting degrees through the chartered accounting route. I did my training with PwC in Belfast, mix of audit and advisory experience. I've had a couple of roles working for US multinational financial services firms who had offices in Belfast. But I've spent the last 9 years of my career in Kainos, and I'm very proud of the career I've had since joining. Over the last 5 years, I led the finance function, which covered FP&A, and hopefully I can provide some insights today. And then the last 12 months or so, I have taken on the role as the CFO of our services division within the company. So on this slide, before getting into really the value obtained within Kainos as a case study from fully integrating FP&A, having been through that journey, I just wanted to first acknowledge that often getting started on the journey is the hardest part. So the quote on the slide from the trend survey illustrates just that. And it calls out to me 2 of the biggest blockers really being complex processes and unsuitable systems, for want of a better term. But underpinned by that for me is really the people in the organization that will be both responsible for enabling the change in the first place and then embedding those new ways of working going forward. So I'll try to use the Kainos journey to bring this to life a little bit for the audience today, outlining how we tackled the challenge and then the value we've realized. So in terms of who Kainos are, there's a few stats at the bottom of the slide there. So we are a UK headquartered IT provider and we operate in just over 20 countries globally. Today we have just under 3,000 employees and with over 350 million pounds in annual revenue. In terms of what we do, we have three divisions. So we have a digital services division, which is our core, more traditional business that we've had from inception in the mid-1980s. And then over the last 10 to 15 years, we've developed our Workday services our Workday partnership, I should say. So we have a Workday services division, and we've now a Workday products division where we've created our own products that are complementary to the Workday product stack itself. So from an FP&A lens, conscious of the audience today, the two services divisions account for over 80% of our revenues, and that's a relatively standard P&L model in terms of project delivery P&Ls. Whereas the products division that we have, that revenue is altogether different in terms of a SaaS-based subscription model P&L. So we're running those two different business models within the one house, within 20 countries globally. So as you can imagine, it's quite a complex landscape to navigate. Next slide, please, Hans. So our true FP&A transformation journey kicked off in 2019, but I need to go back a little bit further than that just to start the journey. So we were a private company for our first 30 years in business until we listed in the summer of 2015 on the London Stock Exchange. So at that point, we had around 700 colleagues and about 60 million in revenue, so in that order of magnitude. In the early 2010s, we'd been on a growth journey for those first 3 or 4 years, but that accelerated both during and post our listing event. And our growth was both in our core digital services business at that point, which was predominantly in the UK, but we were also diversifying into new markets, geographies, as our Workday Services division matured. So with that growth and the diversification, we knew that the systems and processes that got us to that point in our life cycle just would not be sufficient to get us where we wanted to go. So to bring that to life in terms of the three tiles you can see in the slide, in terms of our systems, we had disparate would be a complementary term. So we had our financial ledger as on Sage as an on-premise instance. Our planning was done in Excel, unsurprisingly. Our HR data had just moved to Workday, and our CRM data was in Salesforce and even other smaller CRMs for certain parts of the business. And then our project data, which is a services business, is ultimately the most important data. That was on Kimball, which is now called Cantata. So you have effectively 5 different systems all interacting and to various levels of sophistication of integrations. So that disconnected landscape made it really difficult to plan if we bring it back to the FP&A world. Even if we were growing or even if we weren't growing and we were at a steady state, it would have been a difficult task. But with the growth journey that we were embarking on, it was really clear we needed to change our systems. So how did that manifest? Well, to me, it's just slow decision making, really. And that's born out of a lack of trust in the data within the models and then within the information analysis presented. So we obviously had the typical use case of, our head of finance and our head of HR both quoting different staff cost numbers or headcount numbers, which is just a real erosion of trust in the business. And then naturally, that lack of trust and slow decision making for an organization like us leads to bright, passionate colleagues taking the bull by the horns and creating their own planning models, projections, reports, you name it. So despite the best intentions, it just sets us back even further, and it makes it almost impossible to compare the different business lines and allocate capital or make investment decisions as we should. Next slide, please, Hans. So what do? So we made a conscious decision to select the core operating system first, which is the bottom biggest box on the chart there, and that was Workday. So we adopted a phased approach to implementing Workday. And for me, when it comes to systems and improvements, it's really about the product readiness and the customer readiness. So for us, for various reasons, we went for a phased approach as opposed to a big bang approach. So HR was 2014, finance 2017, planning 2020, and PSA or projects 2021. So now, compared to what I described previously, those 4 main operating systems are all on Workday, and that's just integral for everything we do today. And over that time, over the last 7 years, over the period since IPO, we acquired 7 businesses, all of which are on Workday. Step 2, we identified a centralized reporting framework. So we have now one common format P&L that we can look at any part of the business in, services or product. We append KPIs to the bottom of that P&L that help the business understand their performance better, as opposed to just true P&L statistics. We identified a small amount of persona groups to create a small suite of dashboards that go to that next level down. Okay, some of those might be delivery managers or operations teams, and we want to meet them at their needs in terms of information. And we also utilize the full power of Workday. So we use Office Connect to present exec packs because they like commentary and charts, but we use Adaptive for other persona groups because they like to drill down into the information in real time. And then the last step on top there, that allows us to achieve the real value we were looking for, which is ultimately to get the right information to the business decision makers for them to run the business. And for us, planning is not a finance process. We just facilitate planning. Next slide, please, Hans. So to close out a very whistle-stop tour of the Kainos journey, really some of the key results. So increased business partnering. So the time that our FP&A colleagues spend in terms of interacting with the business and adding value has transformed. We're spending also less time on variance reporting because the data is all native in Workday. And we're far more agile and faster in terms of what-if scenarios. And that really helps the business map out and risk plan. So for me, the key takeaway from our perspective is that integrating FP&A just gives your organization the foundation against which to create the commercial awareness or improve, the commercial awareness of your company. It does take time. It is a maturity. It's an evolution as opposed to revolution. But once it starts to happen and you can see it in practice, it's a really powerful thing to witness in your company. So Hans, I'll hand back to you.
Brilliant. Matt, thank you very much. Great presentation and really shows the power of integrated FP&A or integrating the organization when it's so fragmented, and all the great things that you've done as well. We've seen what you've been doing, Matt. Let us now move on and look at what our audiences are doing. And now here I'm going to launch a polling question around what is the main barrier in your organization for an integrated FP&A. So please, if you can vote, what is the main barrier on your way to an integrated FP&A? Lack of skills in FP&A, lack of system, lack of processes or processes aren't working, lack of support from leadership or mindset. And then the final answer there is integrated FP&A is not a priority at the moment. So please, if you can vote, what is the main barrier on your way to an integrated FP&A in your organization? Lack of skills, lack of system, processes aren't working, lack of support from leadership or mindset, and then integrated FP&A is not a priority. So I'll give it another few seconds, and then I'm going to end it and share the result. So what does our result show? Lack of skills in FP&A is 8%. Lack of system, 47%. Processes that aren't working, 18%. Integrated FP&A is not a priority, 8%. Matt, can I bring you in for a quick insight here, please?
Sure. I guess when I look at this, they're all in various ways interconnected. System doesn't surprise me. The lack of skills, to me, again, given the audience, it's not surprising either. I guess it's a combination of all these things that really help, but the system is obviously the blocker for many reasons, but I think it's winning over the business in terms of the business case. What value can it bring? And I think when you really articulate that, and I know some of our colleagues in Workday are very good at helping build those business cases, I think it helps remove those barriers, win that stakeholder engagement, and then allows that investment in the systems, because it's about how you explain the return on the investment.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can close the gap on this today, going through everything that we're going to go through. So, Matt, thank you very much, and audience, thank you very much for sharing your answers there. Can I please get the other panelists to come and join us whilst we discuss this quick question that Matt has put about to the other panelists? So, what are the key skill sets we look for when recruiting or growing our FP&A team? So, what are those roles? Dave, may I come to you first, please, Dave, with your answer?
Sure. So my view on this is that the advancements that we're seeing in the technologies in the system. So we're going to talk about a little bit about AI later, and a KPI driven plan. That we're taking away a lot of the admin from the traditional FP&A roles. So going forward, I very much see the need to recruit more business analysts and business partners rather than your typical FP&A. We're going to change somewhat, evolve, and get closer to the business and be more operationally focused, as opposed to your traditional producing of reports. So yeah, that's very much where I see things are going to change over the next five years or so.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dave. Kelsey, can I come to you, please, for your answer?
Yeah, great. And definitely agree with Dave around the value of business partners. And you need to communicate the value out to the business um, when you do have integrated FP&A. But I think from a technology perspective, what we're seeing is a need for more folks who are architects of systems who really understand what the technology they have in place is and are able to communicate that out to the business. So set it up in a way that matches your business processes and then communicate that out. And in that way, you create trust in the data and the new technology that you've brought into the organization.
Fantastic answer there. Thank you very much, Kelsey. Matt, what are your thoughts before we wrap up, please?
I guess it's probably layering the two in. So, like when I agree with Dave in terms of the roles, I guess in terms of the personalities of the types of people to fill those roles, you probably need people who are a bit more extrovert, a bit more engaging with internal customers. I know you sometimes have to be careful what you wish for in finance when you complain about having to produce things all the time, but then when you don't have to produce them and you have to sit in front of customers and internal stakeholders, it can be a different challenge altogether. So that type of personality is important, and also just the real focus of that person on customer centricity. I mean, it's not about producing information or reports that you think is important to you. It's about what do the users of the information need to see to help them run their business. It's a very subtle change, but if you need to get your head in that customer mindset as opposed to just producing things that you think look great.
Brilliant, brilliant answers, all three of you. Thank you very much. Just before we move on to our next presenter, let me remind the audience, please send your questions via the chat box. We will answer a few of them today. The rest will be answered to you via email. So please keep sending them. Now, let us move to our next presenter. So if I may ask the others to switch off their webcam and go on mute as well. So our second presenter for today is Dave Tranter, Head of Central Finance at XPO Logistics. And today he will talk to us about driver-based strategies at XPO Logistics. Over to you, Dave, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Hans. So yeah, my name's Dave Tranter. I head up the central finance team, central FP&A teams at XPO Logistics for the UK and Ireland business. XPO, we are a global transport and logistics organisation, and have worked here for the last 20 years. So I've done pretty much every role that we have to offer across finance in our business. So yeah, I'm well placed for the role I'm in at the moment. So that's just good. So my area, what I really look after is everything that isn't directly linked to the operation itself. So I support the exec, group reporting, our IT teams, HR, and most importantly, finance themselves. So my team ensures that the finance team are equipped with the knowledge and the tools that they need to best support the business. So yeah, not directly involved with the operation, but indirectly as I support the finance team. So my view on FP&A, management accountants, is that our core function for the business fundamentally is attention directing. And we do that via business partnering and using our financial insight to steer the business away from risks and towards opportunities. So I think you'd all agree that any time that we're not doing that is time wasted, to some degree. So a slide that Hans showed earlier indicated that actually of our time, the time that we actually spend doing those kind of activities is only 16%. So 16% of our time spent on business partnering and strategic activities, which implies that the other 84% is time spent producing and admin-based activities in the background, copying and pasting from systems. I think we all know and we all see, the payroll report that gets produced every week that gets cut and pasted into our customer cost statements or into our weekly accounts. So 18 months ago, I embarked on a bit of a project to unlock that time, to tilt the tides almost, and uh, balance the scales somewhat more towards releasing some of that 84% into business partnering. So one of the ways in which we did that is we looked at our driver-based plan approach to our forecast and budgeting. So here at XPO, we're for the UK and Ireland business, we're about £850 million, and we operate 7 operating companies across the UK and Ireland and produce 225 separate P&Ls. And every month, we've got the financials for that. Each have got a budget, a forecast, and a KPI. If you look at a typical approach to pulling a budget or forecast together, it'd be an Excel model where we record every vehicle and every person cost, and then link every conceivable cost to the P&L through the nominal accounts. And as you can imagine, that takes an enormous amount of time. So through the project that we started, we enhanced the software we have with Adaptive, so it's Workday product, and we went down a driver-based plan. Now we don't actually call it a driver-based plan here at XPO because everything I do is driver-based, being transport or logistics business. So it's KPI driven. So essentially, what we do is we take what we saw in the past to help us predict the future, and try and build a budget from non-financial data. So I'll talk you through what you can see on screen there. So I know, based on the volume I did yesterday, how many vehicles I needed to do that much volume. So, and then based on the number of vehicles I've got, I know how much labor I'm going to need. So I have built a model that basically asks my finance team questions. How much volume are we going to deliver? So let's say 10,000 pallets. Okay, so based on the past, for 10,000 pallets a month, we needed 100 vehicles. So 100 vehicles. Okay, how are you gonna finance those vehicles? Going to be a lease? Are we gonna buy them? So we'll have depreciation. Type of vehicles are they? Are they going to be run with diesel? Are they going to be run with electric? Do we have any maintenance deals in place? And once I've answered that series of questions, I can go over to my labour. So I've got 100 vehicles. Are we going to double shift those vehicles? Or do I need more than 100 drivers? So my finance team can analyze the past through the KPIs and answer this series of questions. And once they've answered this series of questions, they've not even looked or calculated any figures at this point, but the system has produced a detailed P&L based on their responses. And that saves an enormous amount of time. I would say it's 4 or 5 times faster than a typical Excel-based approach, and it's much more accurate. So there's no human interaction with it. There's no chance of human error in the process because it's all based on our facts, our past. So once we started to unlock some of that 84%, and we're giving that time back. So if you go into the next slide for me, Hans. So now that I've got a system that or a system in place where I can really quickly build a forecast or budget based on our past, we now have the ability to produce scenario-based management or scenario-based what-if environments for us to review. So on screen there's a quick demonstration or example we've pulled together where one of our sites has won a huge piece of business, 40% increase in volume from a set period in time. Now, within 10, 15 minutes, I managed to pull together 3 separate P&Ls because we just rolled forward the other P&L and applied different variances to it to show potential outcomes for management. Should we go with option number 1, invest in new vehicles and recruit new drivers, because this looks like a new long-term benefit for the business? Should we go with option 2 and outsource everything to a third party because it doesn't fit our model at the moment? Or should we go with option 3, spot hire the vehicle so we can switch it off when we're outside of peaks and the activity drops? So I guess my whole point of this is that relatively in real time, I've built something that would have taken days to produce in the past. I can bring this system into the boardroom and I can have the conversation in real time with the management, and the savings to that is just enormous. So another real world example will be next in the next coming weeks, the national insurance and ERS amount is going to change, and we've used our system to model exactly the impact of that, and it took minutes to see what impact that would have on my organization, and then where my finance team would go best support. So I guess a bit of as a closing statement for me is, how can your business start to unlock that 84%? How can you start to save time out of your admin activities and give back to the 16% and business partner and get into the strategic running of the business? So yeah, that was my story. So thanks, Hans. I'll hand back to you.
Fantastic story there, Dave. KPI driven, not driver based, driven based on your organization. And of course, you can see the benefit of it all there. A is, giving back time. B is the speed with which you can do scenario planning, but the speed with which you could do 2 or 3 as and when things change, and you can model, and then you can play, and then you can decide where you head to. So brilliant there. So thank you very much for that. Now that we've seen what Dave has been doing, let us move on to our second polling question. And I'm just about to launch it. So please, what is the most important factor to further advance your FP&A integration? So we've got technology as the first answer there, leadership support, second answer, skills and competencies in finance, harmonizing organizational processes as the last option there. What is the most important factor to further advance your FP&A integration? Technology, leadership support, skills and competencies in finance, and finally, harmonizing organizational processes. If you can vote, please, I'll give you another few seconds. And then we will share the results with you, and of course get a bit of an insight from Dave as well. So ending the polling question and sharing the answer there. So technology 34%, leadership support 26%, skills and competencies 10%, and harmonizing organizational process 31%. Dave, what are your thoughts on this outcome, Dave?
I mean, I think the results speak for themselves, don't they? It's a pretty even split. It's not just one factor that is important to take to consider. For me, for my business, technology and leadership support is definitely high up the agenda. If the business isn't behind you, you're pushing up a hill, and with the data sets that we're talking about now across FP&A, I mean, they're just growing. They're getting bigger and bigger. So we need more technology to help support with that. So yeah, I guess my vote would be split evenly between the two. So yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. If you've got leadership support, then all of the rest kind of falls into play really, at the end of the day, because that's how you're gonna end up getting there. So thank you very much for that, Dave, and audiences. Thank you very much for participating. Please keep sending your question. Let us now move on to our next section, where I'll ask the other panelists to come and join us, please. And here, Dave talked about unlocking FP&A potential. The question again is around how and what are the key tips for unlocking FP&A potential within your organization. Matt, may I start with yourself, please?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the conversation so far has been around processes or the technology, but to me, I think a common theme here is about the getting the leadership buy-in, and a lot of that's change management. So, what we found worked really well was actually selling the dream a little bit to your internal stakeholders. So, show them what they will get out of the transformation process. Will it be improved reporting and actually create those mock reports, dashboards, whatever it may be, engage with them, what do they need, and then turn around a light version to show them this is what we can deliver. It might be efficiency, so tell them that they will be able to get this information days or weeks earlier in a reporting period than they currently do today. So bring it to life for them, and I think once they understand that, and back to the earlier point about the business case, I think you have a much better chance of actually succeeding.
Absolutely spot on there. Absolutely spot on. Thank you very much. Kelsey, we come to you next.
Yeah, great. I think one thing I see our customers typically do that I think has really helped them unlock FP&A potential is really look inwards and study the needs of the business before taking that step to get leadership buy-in, doing the research, getting curious about what is out in the market, what does good look like. I think that has served folks particularly well, and not overlooking that step. It's an important. It seems like simple to say, but without taking the time to do it, um, it tends to make that buy-in much slower and much more inefficient.
Absolutely, a great point there. Thank you very much, Kelsey. And then we circle back with Dave.
Yeah, I very much agree with what you're saying, Kelsey. I think having a strategy and a view is key. And for us, we found that first you need to understand what where your gaps are. But I think if you understand what you need to fix, then you can move forward. For us, it was identifying that a driver-based plan worked. We've got standards and similarities across all our business, so we could use this approach. So having a plan in place and knowing where you're heading before you set off will be huge. And then making sure you've got the right technologies and support around you to get to that goal.
Brilliant. As we say, what is it you want to achieve? What is it that management wants, and then you work backwards. And of course, the smaller the project, the quicker the wins. As Matt mentioned there, you need to show value, and then you get that support from the top. So, guys, thank you very much for that. Let us now move on to our next piece, which is by Kelsey. So, Kelsey, over to you whenever you're ready.
Great. Thanks, Hans. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. Really exciting topic. And also appreciate all of the polls. It's really interesting to see how many folks are struggling with technology as one of the key barriers to integrated planning. And so what I want to spend a little bit of time today doing is, because I think about technology all day, every day. At Workday, it's something in my past life when I was doing budgeting and planning and forecasting in Excel. I wish I would have had an actual tool that was built for purpose instead of Excel. So it's something I think about a lot, and I think especially in this age where technology is so front of mind with the rise of AI, really simplifying what does success look like along a maturity journey. So regardless of if you are using Excel or you're somewhere in the middle of using AI, or you're using integrated planning and full AI tools, wherever you may be, what does success look like? What does the landscape look like? And really some tips to prepare you for wherever you are. So just to jump into the next slide, there are two types of AI that were called out in the FP&A trends paper, which is really fantastic, and I highly encourage you to take a look at it after this. I know I really enjoyed reading it. And really see AI broken out into two separate camps in the paper. So thinking about machine learning, where the value is really around enhancing forecasting and scenario accuracy. And so when I think about machine learning, what machine learning does, it takes data, your historic data, non-financial data, and it's really excellent at analyzing patterns and trends within that data. So examples being that you may hear about in the market of features, predictive forecasting, data anomaly detection, auto variance analysis, and to really kind of just contextualize what that could mean. In a predictive forecasting example, you have your own historic data and maybe something like weather data coming together to make a predictive forecast of your performance, and having the algorithm to help support make that more accurate and really do that for you instead of you having to do that yourself. And then next, which is the hot topic I think we think of very often, is generative AI. So that's more of the chat GPTs of the world. And within the paper, I love that quote of what generative AI is helping to do is revolutionize FP&A workflows. So really changing the way that we're connecting with the technology that we use. So examples that you may hear about in the market, or features you may hear about, are things like conversational planning, AI planning assistance, or intelligent reporting. A great example, though, of conversational planning is if you have it within AI embedded within a tool, you could do something like ask the question, like a prompt, like ChatGPT, which products are generating the most revenue this month? So instead of having you go in and do that analysis, you are able to self-service that through the conversational planning feature, and really save time in that way. So those are kind of the two camps when we think about AI and kind of some of the examples of what they're doing for FP&A teams. And if we think about the value, I love to kind of break it out into three camps to really help make that business case for leadership. Where is the value really going to come from by adopting some of these tools? Really thinking about the power of AI in planning around efficiency. So being able to save that time to spend it where it matters most, to really break that 16% and make it a much larger portion of your day. I don't think many of us went to school and studied and worked in finance really to be reconciling data. We want to be doing the value-oriented work that pushes the business forward. So from an efficiency perspective, I have one example of an organization in the UK. They adopted both. They went from Excel to using Workday Adaptive Planning, and it actually improved their cycle time by 4 weeks for forecast production. That was a 66% improvement in their time. And that organization actually saved so much time and was able to deliver so much value to the business that they actually hired a new business partner to help support that connection with the rest of the business. From an agility perspective, what AI can allow you to do is to make better decisions much quicker, to do those in real time. We saw Dave give some of those great examples, but we also have an example of an organization in the US called Team Car Care, who is integrating their own historic data with weather data, since weather was a key driver for their performance in the business. And by integrating that weather data in, they've been able to more quickly adjust to changes, to change their staffing changes, and have much more accurate forecasts. And then finally, performance, really being able to scale insights as fast as you need so you can grow with confidence. We have an example of a large telecommunications organization in the States who is able to forecast subscriber growth in both existing and emerging markets and across new product lines. So it's really growing with them, but they're also able to make decisions in real time about where their business should be growing next. But that being said, there are some barriers that we are seeing many people encounter in the market. So hopefully many of these will resonate with some of the concerns that you are all having today. Really, the 5 challenges that we see are: first, there's a resistance to change, that AI can be seen as a threat to job security, and that there's a lack of trust. And I think really just breaking it down is when we do add new technology into our day-to-day lives, we are changing the way that we are working. Technology is a change management process. So by having that mindset, it makes it much easier to understand ways of adopting technology. I think next, number 2, legacy systems. There are many legacy systems not based in the cloud, clunky, things like Excel, that really don't have integrated planning and connected planning at its heart of how they were built. So by relying on those systems, they're not really built for the AI age, and it makes it hard to keep up with the changes that we're seeing in the market from a technology perspective with reliance on those old solutions. Number 3, regulatory issues and ethical concerns. I was at a conference last week, and I think this came up, was one of the very first questions that came up, was how do I trust the results that I'm seeing when AI is helping with my forecast? And I think one of the really important things to do as an organization is just to really understand where's the data coming from and how does the technology itself work. That little point of curiosity that our roles are changing, that we need to be all need to be technologists and understand what's being produced. Next, skills shortages. Skills are changing. I don't think AI is here to take our jobs. It's just going to change the jobs that we do. I know it's changed my life. I use AI every day in the work that I do. It's changed how I work. It's changed how I work, and I think when we adopt it, it's going to change how we all work. But that's okay. It just means that we need to have a plan to upskill and hire for those gaps. And I think it's about being curious as well. It's a really exciting time to be able to spend more of that time on that 16% instead of reconciling data. So by looking at this as an opportunity, I think it really does help our teams be more prepared for technology adoption. And then finally, concerns with data quality. Data quality is always tough. I think the beautiful thing about having a tool in place that is so dependent on accurate, clean, consistent data and data frameworks, it's going to make sure that the data we're using is much more accurate to make those decisions. So really exciting there as well. But those are all challenges we hear about. If we go to the next slide, a couple of just quick items from a checklist perspective of strategies that we've seen customers adopt for adopting more AI in their own organizations. I think going back to that point of define the requirements of what your business needs, take a human-centric approach, determine the approach you want to take with adopting a new system, but look at what your people need first and how you're going to connect them to the technology. Have skills, FP&A skills as part of that consideration as well. Really important to see how your people are going to change with the new solution in place. Foundationally prepare your data, and that's going to take a process, but that by having your data clean and prepared, you get the value out of using a technology-based solution as an enabler. Then finally, from a vendor selection perspective, really look at roadmaps, track records, look for value in what their vision for AI-enabled technology looks like. And connecting that data together in a single ecosystem. So just quickly, 3 key takeaways just to touch on. AI is changing rapidly. It's happening around us, but wherever you are in your journey, there's a space for you just to get started. So I encourage you to be curious. Innovation is going to change the way FP&A is going to work in the future. And then finally, preparation is vital. So I think taking that time today to prepare your data is time well spent. So I would say be sure to have those conversations, have the conversations with your team, and really look internally and see what you need and what the opportunities are out in the market. So thanks, Hans. Really appreciate it.
Kelsey, brilliant, great presentation as usual, and fantastic way of introducing AI, the two different AIs, and the benefits of AIs, but also the myth and the challenges we have in using AI. So thank you very much for that. I think in the essence of time, let us move on to our next section, which is a question from yourself to the other panelists. If I may ask the other panelists to please join us. Will AI take over our roles in finance? What are your thoughts, please? Matt, can I come to you first, please, Matt?
Well, the sun is still shining, so I'm going to say no. If it was raining, I might have said yes. It's really hard to know. I mean, the pace of AI and how it's impacting FP&A is just relentless. But at the same time, I can't see a world where you don't need human involvement in some shape or form. So I just think it'll continue to change like it has done over the last 10 years in terms of the technology improvements. It might change at a faster pace, but I absolutely believe the human insight that can be applied in FP&A will never be superseded.
Yeah, absolutely. Human intelligence as well as artificial intelligence, they work hand in hand. Dave, what are your thoughts, Dave?
So just to be controversial, I'm going to say yes. I think it will. I think the roles that we have today will fundamentally change. So I think the role, if you compare the roles now to the roles, what they'll look like in 10 years, 15 years time, they'll be completely different. I think this having AI available to us is just going to speed up a lot of what we do. So I think less admin, more business partnering. I think it's been my theme throughout, so I apologize for laboring, but I think we're going to free up more time and you're going to get more value. Organizations will get more value out of their finance teams, and it will really change their place in the organization. So yes, I think AI will replace the roles that we have today, but by enhancing what we'll be tomorrow is my answer.
Fantastic. Kelsey, last thoughts.
I think I agree with both of you in different ways. Yes, that you know, AI is going to fundamentally change the way we work. But yeah, people won't go anywhere, and I do think that it's personally, I believe from examples that I have seen, it may not, I don't think it's going to necessarily shrink the size of an FP&A organization, because I think that's the other thought as well. It's not just going to change the jobs, but replace them. I do think that the role of FP&A is going to grow, and I think having folks focus on communicating those insights out to the rest of the business is going to mean we're going to need more people in business partnering than we currently have even today.
Yeah, no, spot on. I think that absolutely the roles will become redundant as we go along with time, because they will be replaced by different new roles. So yeah, thank you very much for that, ladies and gents. So let us move very, very quickly, and I'll ask you guys for just one key conclusion from this session. So Matt, if I may come to you, what will be your key conclusion?
I think, yeah, I guess despite the effort and the tribulations, trials and tribulations involved in actually getting started, I think it's absolutely worth aiming for a fully integrated FP&A function using systems, processes, and people. So I can testify that from a Kainos perspective.
Absolutely. Dave, your one key conclusion, please.
That understanding of where you sit on that 16%, 84% ratio, and having a plan on how you can improve it will change the way that your FP&A teams are viewed and the value they add in your business.
Absolutely. Exactly the way you tackled it within XPO. Thank you. And Kelsey, your final thought or conclusion, please.
Yeah, wherever you are on your maturity journey from a technology perspective, I think it's just important to be curious, understand where you are on that journey, and ask questions. Preparation is vital to prepare for the future, and I think AI makes that no different.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your conclusion. Let us now quickly move on to our Q&A session. We have time probably for one question to each one of our panelists, but ladies and gentlemen, we've received a lot of questions. Keep sending them. We will answer all of them via email anyway. So very interesting questions. First one to Matt. Matt, and of course the whole team here. I think throughout our presentations, we've made it look so easy that people have started to believe that, hang on, your organizations have got no complexity. They are small. And so, Matt, can you please give us an idea of, how complex was, the transformation, the challenges? Of course, we don't have much time, but just give us a little bit of insight in complexity and what you had to resolve.
I guess once you made the decision that you're going to maybe, transform your FP&A systems and processes, uh, that's the hardest bit. Then you're in the execution mode and extracting the data, transforming the data, getting it into the shape that the new business, the new world needs to look like going forward. That's probably the most difficult exercise, but it's a one-off exercise. So it can often be a huge hurdle. Oh, we're not going to be able to do this. It's a one-off exercise, right? And then the beauty is that once you're live in the new way of working, all that data is natively generated from within your new process and systems. So um, it is a lot of work. Do not get me wrong, but it's absolutely worth it. So given that it's only a one-off exercise, it's definitely worth that short-term pain for the future gains.
And I think, Matt, you mentioned in your presentation as well, it's not a big bang process all in one. You could start small, you could start somewhere within a business unit, and then, bring the whole learning to the organization as well, I guess.
Well, you can be flexible. I think I mentioned customer readiness and product readiness. For us, like we started this 7, 8, 9 years ago, we weren't ready as a customer. We weren't mature, and the products at those point in times weren't ready. If I was doing it again today, I would do it big bang. So the beauty of the you have choice, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? And it's about what's right for you and your organization at that point in time. You have choice. Today, I would do a big bang because I think you realize the value more quickly
Yeah,
by doing a big bang, and you contain the change management aspects of it.
fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to Dave. And thank you very much for your presentation. You talked about KPIs in your forecasting tool, etc. How many KPIs are rolled into your tool, and how often do you review them? Do you have external KPIs as well?
Oh, we have I've, we have hundreds of KPIs across my business. So depending on the product offering and the area that we're looking at, so we have a few that we consider our core KPIs: pallets delivered, labour, how many vehicles we've got on the road, and what they are. But then we we have then branched out into every single drop that we do, what's on every vehicle, so how many items were delivered, and we store that all within our system. My theory now is it's one storage or one place for all our financial and non-financial. The more that we build that central repository now, the stronger we'll be for when we fall onto the AI and the machine learning um, enhancements later. So yeah, not an easy answer. I have hundreds of KPIs, not all of which are maintained and submitted to group. Just
Yeah.
the core ones, probably a dozen core, and then hundreds of others that are important to one side of the business, but not as important to another. Being an organization that has an open book element to it, some of our customers deliver ladders, say, and we track how many ladders that we deliver, how many ladders on each load we deliver for that customer specifically. But then my group's not really interested in that KPI, so I don't submit it. Our tool lets us store all of that. So
yeah, at the end of the day, Dave, thank you very much for that. It's always the 80-20 rules, isn't it? Yeah, the 20% of KPIs that drive 80% of the value of the company. So brilliant answer there. Thank you very much, Kelsey. Last but not least, a very interesting question for you. There is if I can get it up and running. Appreciate the learnings. Management expect KPIs, etc., based on model. What if we don't have the funds to implement the system? Where do we start? I mean, how you must see that often with your customers.
Yeah. Great question. And I think it goes back to a lot of what Matt was saying earlier. It's about building the business case. And also what Dave was saying earlier, how much time was spent before on that 84%. When you're able to make the case of the time savings, the value of the product, and build a business case around that, I think that's really where you can communicate it to senior leadership about investing in a technology solution.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think people still think about 10 years ago in terms of prices of technology. It has somewhat come down massively since then. So it's worth really looking at it, right? The panelists, thank you very much for answering those questions. Please stay on the camera. We are almost out of time, if not already. So we will leave all the other questions to be answered by email. Just a few more slides to run you through. So we've got a couple of webinars coming up April the 2nd on transforming FP&A strategies looking forward. And then we've got the FP&A circle where we're looking at the FP&A ecosystem for all of your calendars. So please make a note of that. And we shared a lot of the surveys stats from previous one. The 2025 survey is coming up as well, so you can scan it and be part of it. Remember, you will get a full-blown copy in your email as soon as it's final as well. It's a great time now for me to say thank you. Thank you to Workday for making this available to all of us. Thank you to our panelists, Matt, Dave, and Kelsey, for all their hard work, which has taken weeks, and their presentation and their thoughtful insight on all of the stuff that we've discussed. And thank you to everyone who's attended today. And just to leave you, this is how you guys can keep in touch with us. So please link up with us, follow us, etc. Just a quick reminder, when I close this, you will get a feedback pop-up. So if you can give us some feedback, tell us how we did, and also tell us what you'd like to hear from us in the future. So with that, I would like to say a big, massive thank you and see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.